Hello. I'm going to talk about what happened in Ogoniland to the Ogoni people. This is in Nigeria and the Niger Delta. This is an ethnic group, and what happened was colonization by a multinational corporation, Shell. Um, so what did Shell do? Well, there was oil in Agona land. They wanted access to the oil because they want the profits from it, right? That's what a corporation is all about. It's all about money. It's not about morals or any of that. At least for a large one, maybe like a tiny one, whatever. But um, yeah, so they go to so how do they get this oil though? Well, they go to the Nigerian government and they corrupt it in their favor. And they can do this easily because they have so much money, right? So they go to the Nigerian government, they say, hey, there's this oil there, we want it, you know, here's some favors and everything. And they say, okay, go ahead, have at it. So then they go over there, right? And they start getting the oil. But because they are a corporation, they are just an amoral greed machine. They don't care about what happens to the land there. All they care about is just getting the oil. So if it saves them money to do an extremely filthy, dirty operation, I mean, even if they were doing things cleaner, it would still be horrible. But they don't even care about that. So they just create an environmental catastrophe. In fact, an environmental genetic side, that's how severe this was. Oil was spilled all over the place, um, in water, on the land, water that people drink, water that people fish from. Species are going extinct, being destroyed. The pollution in the air is horrible. Um, I think I saw a story about a child that went over to like a body of water, and they fell in the oil and died. They drowned. Like this is horrible. And of course, they do what any corporation would do. They deny it. They downplay it. They blame shift, and so on. Right. Now, so what do the Agoni people do in response to all of this? Well, in fact, a movement starts, right? A movement for their rights, and it's important to understand that Agona land is being colonized by this multinational corporation. They're actually going on the land, right? Like they are actually there. They are actually there, and they have political influence. Really, they control the situation politically. They control the situation militarily. Now, do they have formal control over the military? It doesn't matter. All that matters is reality, right? They have dynamical control. They have control in reality. Um, so this movement starts, a peaceful movement against what Shell is doing there, or their subsidiary that's there. And what does Shell do? Well, they push for the Nigerian government to intervene militarily. Now, what do these military interventions look like? Um, Massacres, uh, you know, uh, sexual violence. I'm just trying to censor there a bit. Severe, very severe. I will be sharing references. You will see, if you have the stomach for it, or if if you want to, um, uh, um, taking people, imprisoning them, and torch dashering them, right? Um, W-R crimes of the highest order is what happened. And what does Shell do? well, they see all of this, they know about all of this, but they keep going. They don't, they just keep going. Um, and, you know, they even provided logistical support for the military at some points, which, if they didn't do that, it wouldn't really matter anyway. They're still responsible for what's happening here. But, like, I mean, it is a more, quote unquote, direct involvement, right? And in fact, the leader of Mossad, this movement for the survival of the Ogoni people, and they wrote a Bill of Rights too, which I will definitely share because I like to, I think it's really important to see what the people involved have to say, not just, the people that are not involved but writing about it, right? You want to see the voice of the people actually involved, and you will see some of that if you read their Bill of Rights. They describe, from their own eyes what is happening to them, which is their destruction, which is genocide. And it's important to understand that that's a process, right? It's a process, but it's inevitable because Shell is just going to extract more and more and more from the land for their own wealth, and this is what's going to happen, right? And it's just going to keep going on and on. There's no stop to it. There's no end to it, and these people had this movement against it because they wanted to change that, right? They didn't want this to happen to them. Now, unfortunately, Shell and the Nigerian government did ultimately squash this movement with all of these massacres, torch dashering people, all of these sexual dash-lins that happen, and all of this. So it is it would be extremely tragic anyway, but it's even more tragic it's tragic at the ending too. Now, so the leader was imprisoned, torch dashed, and ultimately executed, with a sham trial or whatever, basically just extrajudicial execution. And the family actually sued Shell in court, and Shell actually settled. They settled for $15 million. Now, that's not a normal, that's not, that's a lot of money for a corporation to pay, to claim that it's just about charity, right? No, they don't want to go to court. They don't want all of the details of what they've done to come out in this court. They don't want the attention, the media attention. They don't want justice to happen. Now, they actually wrote about this settlement on their website, and I believe they've since deleted it because I can't find it anymore. But I do have it actually, and I will share it with you all in the references because the Wayback Machine is a wonderful thing sometimes, right? And what they say is they gloat. They gloat. They say, we're so innocent, we did nothing wrong, but you know what, we're so charitable, we're so, wonderful, that we're going to, give this $15 million, this settlement, as a gesture of our humanitarian, really sick. It creates an interesting conceptual connection between the way corporations act, what they say, and like narcissistic use, right? It's essentially narcissistic use. It's just gaslighting, blame shifting, causing harm. Gloating that you're so wonderful and innocent, and you're just gonna do the nice, you do a horrible thing, and then you somehow next moment you're gloating about like how you're innocent but you're wonderful. Yeah, it's horrible, and they took it down. They probably just put it up like when there was more attention on it, and then when when the attention went away, they're like, oh, okay, we're gonna take it down now because it served its purpose, quote unquote. Um, but yeah, this is a tragic tale of colonization, and the Ogoni people have had a very hard time getting traction in courts because, they'll come to America and then American judges will be like, well, you don't have jurisdiction here. And they'll be like, well, you know, we can't do it in our own country because our own country is corrupt and we're like an internal colony within our own country, so we can't do it there. And this is a corporation, like, you know, uh, uh, you know, that is, it's like, it's corrupt. It's unjust. They should absolutely be able to have these lawsuits in any country they want. At least that's like tangentially involved at the least. And America is extremely involved because this is a government that cares deeply about oil and the population too. I'm not like giving them a pass. Me to some extent, you can see I'm playing like video games, right? That involves use of energy and everything, and I have a computer. That's my main use of energy is my computer, which is on it's not the greatest thing, but anyway, I shouldn't be talking about myself and my all of that. That's irrelevant right now. Yeah, so yeah, that's the story, and I will share the references. Amnesty International did a report on this. They had like thousands of like emails and internal documents from Shell, so they had access to an incredible wealth of information, and they actually linked it in their article. But unfortunately, the link is broken, and I have never been able to find these documents. So I'm not sure what happened there. It almost seems as if like maybe Shell like somehow got them to take down the documents. I don't know, but that's why their report has so much credibility to me. Is not only, even if they didn't have all these internal documents, you can just look at the observable facts and make inferences. But they also had access to all of these internal documents, so they have an incredibly concrete, detailed picture of what happened. So their report is really great, and also includes some testimony of some of the violence experienced by people, which is horrendous. If you read it, what happened, and these are just like a few stories, when thousands of people died. What else was I'm almost, oh yeah, and the Ogoni Bill of Rights, check that out. And I think there's some other references I'll also put. So colonization, here's my last thing, my last message, right? Colonization is not some abstract thing. It really happens. It really happens. And this is a great example of what it looks like to paint the gravity of it, the dynamics of it, everything like that. Like, it's not some abstract thing. It happens. It's happening. And, we're responsible, those of us with more power in these countries that are participating in these kinds of things, we have some we have some obligation to fight against it, because the people who are experienced, some of that responsibility falls on us, in my opinion. I don't know why the game is lagging so much. That's kind of weird. I don't know what's going on with that. Anyway, yeah, so thank you for listening, and I hope you found it interesting and educational. Again, my videos suck, but the references don't, so if you don't care about the video or whatever, that makes sense. The videos do suck. There's no script or anything, but check out the references because those are golden. Thank you for watching. Take care.